You clearly have no idea how business works at my level." The courtroom camera captured the exact moment a millionaire's wife made the biggest mistake of her life. Victoria Ashford Sterling walked into Judge Judy's courtroom covered in diamonds, wrapped in designer labels, and carrying the kind of confidence that only comes from a life where money has always opened every door. Then she said the words that would destroy her entire case. "Your Honor, you clearly don't understand how business works at your level." The silence that followed was cold, heavy, and unforgettable. But what Victoria did not know was that Judge Judy had already prepared for this moment. Before Victoria ever stepped into the courtroom, Judge Judy had pulled public records, reviewed old claims, and studied the pattern behind Victoria's carefully polished image. And inside one thick manila folder sat the evidence that would expose every lie Victoria was about to tell. What unfolded over the next 15 minutes became one of the most replayed courtroom moments in Judge Judy history, shared millions of times across social media. Because this was not simply a case about unpaid wages. This was wealth standing face-to-face with wisdom. This was arrogance being confronted by evidence. And this was the day one privileged woman learned a lesson she would never forget. Never insult Judge Judy's intelligence. Before we get to the moment Judge Judy destroys Victoria's defense with a single folder full of devastating records, tell me in the comments where you are watching from. I always love seeing where viewers are joining from around the world. And don't forget to subscribe, because what you are about to witness is a powerful reminder that documentation will always beat arrogance. This is the kind of justice that makes people believe in the system again. Now sit back, relax, and listen closely. It was a Tuesday morning inside Judge Judy's courtroom, and at first glance, the case appeared ordinary. The matter before the court involved Emma Rodriguez, a 52-year-old housekeeper, who was suing Victoria Ashford Sterling for $8,500 in unpaid wages. But from the moment Victoria entered the courtroom, everyone could feel this case was going to be anything but ordinary. She walked in wearing a Chanel suit that looked more expensive than most people's monthly rent. In one hand, she carried a $15,000 Hermes handbag, which she placed on the defendant's table as though it were proof of her importance. Her jewelry sparkled beneath the courtroom lights. Diamond earrings, a tennis bracelet, rings on multiple fingers. Everything about her appearance announced wealth, privilege, and the belief that nothing in that courtroom could truly touch her. Victoria checked her phone as she approached the defendant's table, sighing loudly as if being forced to appear in court was some terrible inconvenience. When the bailiff told her to silence her phone, she rolled her eyes, slowly slipped it into her purse, and made sure everyone noticed her irritation. Her posture, her expression, and the way she looked around the room all delivered the same message. She believed she was better than everyone there. Even the judge, Victoria, was 42 years old and had never lived the life of an ordinary working person. At 25, she had married Christopher Sterling, a real estate mogul worth more than $50 million. For the last 17 years, she had lived in a world where money solved problems, staff members stayed invisible, and consequences were something other people had to deal with. But that morning, she was about to discover that Judge Judy's courtroom followed a very different set of rules. Standing across from her was Emma Rodriguez. The contrast between the two women could not have been stronger. Emma wore simple black pants and a plain white blouse, the uniform of her cleaning company. She had chosen to wear it deliberately, because she wanted the court to see exactly who she was and what kind of work she did. In her hands, she held an old binder packed with papers, photographs, printed messages, and records. Her fingers trembled slightly, not because she was afraid, but because after months of waiting, she was finally getting her chance to speak. Emma had been cleaning houses for 30 years. She had immigrated from El Salvador in 1995, worked multiple jobs to support her family, and saved every possible dollar to help her daughter attend college. She was not scared of hard work. She was not scared of rich people. But she was tired of being treated as if she did not matter. Tired of being spoken to like her labor had no value. Tired of being invisible inside the beautiful homes she spent her life cleaning. Then Judge Judy entered the courtroom. Everyone rose. At 78 years old, Judge Judy was already a legal legend. Long before she became one of the most famous television judges in America, she spent decades as a real judge in New York, handling thousands of serious cases. She had seen every excuse, every lie, every manipulation tactic. Her reputation for cutting through nonsense was unmatched. She did not tolerate foolishness. She did not accept weak excuses. And she had no patience for anyone who believed they could outsmart her. What Victoria failed to understand was that Judge Judy always did her homework, always. And the thick manila folder resting on the bench in front of her was not there by accident. Inside that folder was information that would soon dismantle Victoria's story piece by piece. Judge Judy sat down, adjusted her glasses, and looked over the file in front of her. Her expression was calm and professional. But anyone who had watched her courtroom before knew what that look meant. She had already read everything. She had already noticed the important details. And now she was going to allow both sides to speak long enough to reveal exactly who was telling the truth. Judge Judy looked up at the two women. Mrs. Ashford Sterling, She began in a measured voice. Ms. Rodriguez says she worked for you as a housekeeper for 2 years, and that you owe her $800 for the final 3 months of her employment. Is that accurate? Victoria did not wait for her lawyer. She waved one hand dismissively, her diamond bracelet flashing in the light. Your Honor, I own multiple properties and I have many staff members throughout the year. I can't possibly be expected to remember every single person who has worked in my homes. That simply isn't realistic. Judge Judy slowly removed her glasses. Anyone familiar with her courtroom knew that was a warning sign. So you are saying Ms. Rodriguez did work for you? Victoria realized her mistake immediately and tried to correct herself. What I'm saying, Your Honor, is that people come and go. Housekeepers, gardeners, contractors. My life is very busy. I manage several estates, but this woman specifically. She gestured toward Emma without even looking at her. I don't remember her face at all. Judge Judy turned to Emma. Ms. Rodriguez, what evidence do you have that you worked for Mrs. Ashford Sterling? Emma opened her binder with careful, practiced movements. Your Honor, I have photographs of myself working inside her Riverside Drive mansion. I can identify specific rooms, specific furniture, specific artwork. I have text messages from her phone number giving me cleaning instructions. I have a schedule showing that I worked every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon. And I have a neighbor who saw me arriving and leaving regularly for 2 years. She handed copies to the bailiff who passed them to Judge Judy. The photographs were clear and time-stamped. Emma in the massive kitchen. Emma in the library with the distinctive floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. Emma in the master bedroom beneath the custom chandelier that had once appeared in Architectural Digest. Victoria laughed. It was the kind of laugh that was meant to humiliate. Your Honor, with all due respect, you've probably never managed household staff of this size and complexity. These photos could have come from anywhere. Anyone can save a phone number and claim it belongs to me. Anyone can photograph the inside of a home during a party or an open house. Judge Judy placed her glasses back on and stared at Victoria with an expression so cold it could have frozen the room. Mrs. Ashford Sterling, I was practicing law before you were born. I have handled complex cases involving millions of dollars, custody battles, and life-changing legal decisions. Try me. Victoria did not recognize the danger. She kept speaking in the same superior tone. I simply mean that people at a certain economic level operate differently than what you may be used to seeing in small claims court. Managing staff, payroll, domestic employees. It can be complicated. These things are not always black and white. Judge Judy's voice became quieter. And in that courtroom, when Judge Judy became quiet, it was more dangerous than when she raised her voice. I understand perfectly, Mrs. Ashford Sterling. Please continue. Emma then presented more evidence. She showed text messages on her phone, dozens of them. Emma, please make sure the guest bathrooms are spotless before Thursday. We are having dinner guests. Emma, use the special wood polish on the dining table, not the regular cleaner. Emma, I need you to come early Monday, 8 o'clock instead of 9. Each message was specific. Each message gave directions. Each message clearly sounded like someone instructing an employee. Judge Judy read through them carefully. These messages cover a period of 2 years, Mrs. Ashford Sterling. They contain specific instructions about your home, your schedule, and your preferences. And you are telling me you do not remember Ms. Rodriguez at all? Victoria shifted slightly, but she refused to back down. Your Honor, I am a busy woman. I delegate communications. Sometimes my assistant sends messages from my phone. Sometimes my housekeeper manager handles those things. But here is what I know for certain. If I had employed this woman consistently, there would be proper documentation, tax forms, employment contracts, official records. And there are none, are there? She looked at Emma triumphantly, believing she had found the weakness in Emma's case. But Emma raised another document. I have one check from you, Mrs. Ashford Sterling. It was for $700 for my first month of work. After that, you insisted on paying cash. You said it was easier. You said you preferred not to deal with paperwork. I trusted you because I needed the job. Judge Judy examined the check. This check is from your account, Mrs. Ashford Sterling, made payable to Emma Rodriguez, dated exactly 2 years ago. Victoria's lawyer attempted to speak, but Victoria cut him off. She was determined to handle the situation herself. Your Honor, clearly you don't understand the tax optimization strategies used by people at my wealth level. No offense, but judging small claims cases probably hasn't exposed you to sophisticated financial planning. Cash payments are common in domestic employment. Sometimes they are beneficial for both parties. The courtroom went completely silent. Even the court reporter seemed to stop typing for a moment. Had Victoria Ashford Sterling really just told Judge Judy that she did not understand financial planning? Had she really implied that Judge Judy's legal experience was too limited? Judge Judy slowly removed her glasses again and set them carefully on the bench. So you are admitting that you paid her in cash to avoid reporting it to the IRS? Victoria realized too late that she had walked directly into a trap. I'm saying the cash payments she claims never happened, because she never worked for me consistently enough to deserve regular payment. This is her word against mine. And frankly, Your Honor, you are choosing to believe a cleaning lady over me. Judge Judy leaned back slightly. A small smile appeared on her face. The kind of smile regular viewers knew very well. It meant someone was about to be destroyed. I am choosing evidence over arrogance, Mrs. Ashford Sterling. But please, continue digging the hole you are standing in. Victoria still believed her status would protect her. She truly thought her wealth, her last name, her expensive clothes, and her confidence would matter more than Emma's binder full of evidence. Your Honor, let's be realistic. This woman worked in my home, if she worked there at all, as casual labor. There was no formal employment relationship, no contract, no agreement. She is trying to claim I owe her money based on nothing but her own statements. Where are the tax records? Where is the proof of payment? It does not exist because this alleged employment never happened the way she says it did. Emma spoke up, her voice steady despite the pressure. Mrs. Sterling, you told me not to report the income. You said it would be better for both of us. You said you had many employees and cash was easier. I believed you. I trusted you. Victoria laughed again, the same cruel, dismissive laugh. Your Honor, now she is claiming I told her to commit tax fraud. This is ridiculous. She is adding one lie on top of another. I never told her anything like that because I never employed her the way she claims. Judge Judy raised her hand. Mrs. Ashford Sterling, before you walked into my courtroom today, what research did you do about me? My background, my career. Victoria looked confused. Research, Your Honor. This is small claims court. I didn't think I needed to prepare a dissertation. I am simply here to defend myself against false accusations. Judge Judy's smile grew slightly. That may have been your first mistake, Mrs. Ashford Sterling. That may have been your very first mistake. Victoria continued, completely unaware that disaster was approaching. Your Honor, I want my position to be perfectly clear. Emma Rodriguez claims she worked in my home consistently for 2 years. She claims I paid her cash for most of that time. She claims I owe her $8,500. All of those claims are false. I have never employed this woman in any official capacity. She may have been part of a cleaning crew that visited my home occasionally. But I had no direct relationship with her, no memory of hiring her personally, and certainly no obligation to pay her anything. She is trying to scam me because she knows I have money, and she thinks I will settle just to avoid inconvenience. But I will not be extorted. I will not be taken advantage of, and I will not pay this woman a single penny. Judge Judy nodded slowly as she wrote notes. So your official testimony under oath is that Emma Rodriguez never worked directly for you as your personal housekeeper. Victoria straightened her shoulders. That is absolutely correct, Your Honor. I have no employment relationship with this woman whatsoever. Judge Judy continued. And you are willing to stand by that statement? You are certain? Because once you commit to this testimony, Mrs. Ashford Sterling, you cannot take it back. Victoria's condescending smile returned. Your Honor, I know the truth. I know who has and has not worked in my home. I am absolutely certain. This woman is lying, and I am telling the truth. It is that simple. Judge Judy set down her pen and folded her hands. It is that simple. Interesting choice of words. The tension in the courtroom became almost unbearable. Emma looked nervous but hopeful. Her cousin Rosa, sitting in the gallery, gripped the bench in front of her. Victoria looked smug. Her lawyer, however, looked increasingly uneasy, as if he could sense something his client was too arrogant to notice. Then Judge Judy reached beneath the bench and pulled out a thick manila folder. The folder was several inches thick, packed with papers and held together by rubber bands. She placed it on the bench with a soft thud that somehow sounded louder than it should have. Mrs. Ashford Sterling, do you know what this is? Victoria glanced at the folder without much interest. I have no idea, Your Honor. Should I? Judge Judy slowly removed the rubber bands. These are public court records. Records I pulled before you ever entered my courtroom this morning. Records I have been reading while you sat here insulting my intelligence and explaining to me how wealthy people operate. For the first time, Victoria's face changed, only slightly, but the confidence cracked. What kind of records? Judge Judy opened the folder and pulled out the first document. Let's begin with the most recent one. In 2021, a woman named Lucia Santos filed a wage claim against you with the Rhode Island Department of Labor. Does that name sound familiar? Victoria's hand moved to her diamond necklace. That was a misunderstanding. It was resolved. Judge Judy lifted another document. Resolved. According to the Department of Labor's findings, you paid Miss Santos in cash for 7 months, then stopped paying her while she continued working for 3 additional months. When she filed her claim, you settled for $11,000. The finding specifically states that you engaged in a pattern of paying domestic workers off the books to avoid employment taxes. Victoria's lawyer finally stood. Your Honor, that case was settled confidentially. It should not be relevant here. Judge Judy looked at him over her glasses. Counselor, your client just testified under oath that she has never had employment problems with household staff. These public records suggest otherwise. I am establishing a pattern of behavior. Sit down. Judge Judy pulled another document from the folder. Victoria's face had gone from confident to pale in seconds. But there is more. In 2019, you were sued by another domestic worker named Carmen Gonzalez for unpaid wages. You settled that case for $12,000. The file describes the same pattern. You hired her, paid her cash for several months, then stopped paying her while expecting her to continue working. When she complained, you fired her and claimed she had never been your employee. Does that sound familiar, Mrs. Ashford Sterling? Victoria's voice was no longer sharp. It trembled. Your Honor, those were complicated situations. They were taken out of context. My husband's attorneys handled those matters. I wasn't directly involved in the details. Judge Judy's voice cut through the room like a blade. Your husband's attorneys. Mrs. Ashford Sterling, you spent the last 20 minutes telling me that you manage your household staff, that you handle hiring and firing, that you make decisions about domestic employees. Which is it? Are you the sophisticated estate manager you claim to be? Or are you simply a woman who hides behind her husband's money when your conduct is exposed? Victoria opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her lawyer placed a hand on her arm, silently begging her to stop talking. But the damage had already been done. Judge Judy was not finished. She pulled out another document. And here is my personal favorite. 6 months ago, you settled another wage dispute, this time with a woman named Rosa Martinez. You paid her $9,000 to avoid going to court. Victoria barely whispered, "That's a different Martinez." Judge Judy's voice rose for the first time. I know it is a different Martinez. Rosa Martinez is Emma Rodriguez's cousin. She warned Emma about working for you. She told Emma that you were a serial wage thief who exploited immigrant women. But Emma needed the job because she had bills to pay and a daughter in college. Emma has text messages from Rosa saying, "Do not work for Mrs. Sterling. She will not pay you." She did the same thing to me. The courtroom fell completely silent except for the sound of Victoria's heavy breathing. Her polished image was crumbling in front of everyone. Her hands shook. The diamond bracelet that had looked so impressive when she walked in now looked tasteless and obscene. Judge Judy continued, her voice filled with controlled fury. "Let me tell you what I see, Mrs. Ashford Sterling. I see a pattern. A deliberate and calculated pattern of exploitation. You target immigrant women who desperately need work. Women who may not fully understand their legal rights. Women who are afraid to challenge you because you have money, lawyers, and connections. You hire them and pay them cash for a few months, which they accept because they need immediate income. Then you stop paying them while expecting them to continue working. When they finally ask for their wages, you fire them. You know most of them will not sue because they are scared of the legal system, scared of immigration issues, and scared of you. And the few who do sue, like Carmen, Lucia, and Rosa, you settle quietly with confidentiality agreements and move on to the next victim." Victoria began crying, mascara running down her face. "Your Honor, please. I can explain all of this." Judge Judy slammed her hand on the bench. "Explain what? That you are a serial wage thief? That you exploit vulnerable women who clean your toilets, scrub your floors, and make your life comfortable? That you commit tax fraud by paying people under the table? Which part would you like to explain, Mrs. Ashford Sterling?" Victoria's voice became desperate. The cash payments were their idea. They wanted to be paid in cash because they didn't want to report the income. I was doing them a favor. Judge Judy's face showed pure disgust. "So now you are throwing them under the bus too. Now these hard-working women are the criminals. You are not only a liar and a thief, you are also willing to destroy their reputations to protect yourself. How convenient that every single woman who worked for you supposedly demanded cash payments, and then lied about you owing them money." Emma sat quietly at the plaintiff's table, tears sliding down her face. But these were not tears of fear. They were tears of vindication. For 2 years she had believed she was alone. She had feared that no one would listen, that Victoria's wealth would protect her, that status would matter more than truth. Now Judge Judy pulled the final document from the folder. And here is the Department of Labor investigation summary from Lucia Santos's case. Let me read the official finding. Mrs. Victoria Ashford Sterling engaged in a deliberate and systematic pattern of exploiting domestic workers by hiring them without proper documentation, paying them cash to avoid employment taxes and payroll obligations, and then terminating their services without final payment when they requested proper compensation. This behavior demonstrates willful disregard for labor laws and a calculated effort to take advantage of vulnerable workers. Judge Judy lowered the paper. "That is not my opinion, Mrs. Ashford Sterling. That is the official finding of a government agency." Judge Judy closed the folder and looked directly at Victoria with absolute contempt. "You walked into my courtroom today wearing designer clothing and expensive jewelry, and you made the fatal mistake of assuming I was stupid. You assumed that because Emma Rodriguez cleans houses for a living, she was not intelligent enough to document her case. You assumed that because I am a television judge, I would not be thorough enough to pull public records. You were wrong on every count." Victoria sobbed openly now. "Your Honor, please. I made mistakes. I didn't mean to insult you. I was only trying to defend myself. My husband is going to be furious when he hears about this." Judge Judy leaned forward, her voice ice cold. "Then you should have thought about that before building a lifestyle on the backs of women you refuse to pay. You should have thought about that before insulting my intelligence while lying under oath. You should have thought about many things, Mrs. Ashford Sterling. But thinking clearly does not appear to be your strongest quality, despite all that sophisticated financial planning you claim to understand." Victoria tried one final time, her voice broke. Your Honor, what if we settle this right now? I'll pay Emma whatever she wants. Double, triple. I'll write a check today. Can we just make this go away? Judge Judy laughed sharply, without humor. Now you want to settle. After spending 30 minutes claiming Emma never worked for you. After calling her a liar and a scammer. After suggesting she was trying to extort you. Now that I have exposed your pattern of fraud, suddenly you are willing to pay. That is not how my courtroom works, Mrs. Ashford Sterling. You do not get to lie under oath and then buy your way out when you are caught. Emma Rodriguez stood a little straighter. When she spoke, her voice was stronger than it had been all day. Your Honor, I don't want triple. I only want what she owes me. I worked for that money. I earned it. I cleaned her house for 3 months, while she made excuses about why she couldn't pay me. My daughter needed textbooks for college. I needed to pay rent. But Mrs. Sterling needed a new handbag, new jewelry, and another vacation. She had money for everything except paying the woman who scrubbed her floors. Judge Judy nodded with respect. Ms. Rodriguez, your dignity throughout this proceeding has been remarkable. You came prepared with evidence. You told the truth. You did not exaggerate. You did not embellish. You simply asked for the money you earned. That is all any worker should ever have to do. Then she turned back to Victoria, and her voice became formal and final. Mrs. Victoria Ashford Sterling, I find in favor of the plaintiff, Emma Rodriguez, in the full amount of $8,500 in unpaid wages. In addition, I am awarding Ms. Rodriguez another $8,500 in punitive damages for your malicious conduct, your pattern of exploitation, and your false testimony in this courtroom. That is $17,000 total, due immediately. The courtroom filled with whispers and gasps. Victoria's face went from pale to gray. $17,000? Your Honor, that is excessive. That is punishing me beyond what is reasonable. Judge Judy raised her hand for silence. I am not finished. Victoria froze. I am also referring this matter to the Internal Revenue Service for investigation into systematic tax fraud involving multiple domestic employees over several years. Based on the evidence in this folder, you may have avoided paying employment taxes on numerous workers, which can be a federal crime. I am also referring this case to the Rhode Island Department of Labor for investigation into your pattern of wage theft. They may decide whether criminal charges are appropriate. And finally, I am ordering that this judgment and the evidence presented today remain part of the public record with no confidentiality agreement. You have hidden behind sealed settlements long enough. It is time the public knows exactly who you are and what you have done. Victoria collapsed into her chair shaking. Her lawyer looked as if he wanted to be anywhere else on earth. Emma stood tall, tears streaming down her face. But these were tears of relief and victory. Judge Judy looked at Emma with something close to warmth. Ms. Rodriguez, you did everything right. You documented your work. You kept records. You found other victims and built your case. You refused to be intimidated by wealth or status. You should be proud of yourself. And I hope you use some of this money to celebrate with your daughter. Because today you taught her one of the most important lessons a parent can teach. Truth and persistence can defeat arrogance and lies. Emma's voice was thick with emotion. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for believing me. Judge Judy's expression softened slightly. Ms. Rodriguez, I did not believe you because you seemed sympathetic. I believed you because you brought evidence. That is what justice requires. Evidence, not emotion. You understood that. Mrs. Ashford Sterling did not. Judge Judy looked one last time at Victoria, who was still crying into her hands. Mrs. Ashford Sterling, let me leave you with this. You had every advantage in life. Money, education, opportunity. And you used those advantages to exploit people who had none of them. You could have been a decent employer. You could have paid fair wages and treated people with dignity. Instead, you chose to be dishonest. That is not a mistake. That is a character flaw. And character flaws are much harder to fix than legal problems. She paused. The $17,000 you owe is nothing compared to the basic respect you failed to show these women. Get out of my courtroom. We are done here. As the bailiff called the next case, Victoria stumbled out of the courtroom, clutching her designer handbag, her perfect image shattered. Emma walked out with her head held high, while her cousin Rosa hugged her tightly. Within hours, the video of the case spread across social media. Headlines appeared everywhere. Judge Judy destroys arrogant rich woman with court records. Wealthy woman insults Judge Judy's intelligence and immediately regrets it. Within 48 hours, the clip had been viewed more than 30 million times. The comments all said the same thing. Justice served, karma delivered. Never insult Judge Judy's intelligence. If this story of justice and accountability reminded you that truth still matters, hit the subscribe button right now. Share this video with someone who needs to see that documentation always beats arrogance. Truth always stands stronger than lies, and Judge Judy always does her homework. Drop a comment below about a time someone underestimated your intelligence or your abilities, because the smartest thing any person can do is respect others, no matter their job, income, or social status. Real intelligence has nothing to do with money. It has everything to do with character. Judge Judy proved that today. Emma Rodriguez proved that today. And Victoria Ashford Sterling learned it the hardest way possible.